So the other day, I actually found a decently uncommon game compilation at my local thrift store, where I found Kirby's Dream Collection for the Nintendo Wii. Now, I've already put out a short video showcasing the unboxing and the physical contents of the compilation, and I'll link it down below if you haven't already seen it. But I figured today, we can go over everything that's included on the disc itself. To test it out, I decided to use my Wii U, and once I was loaded in, I was greeted by a pretty adorable little skit of Kirby, King Dedede, and Meta Knight to bring me into the main menu. The disc includes 6 classic Kirby titles, extra challenge stages, and a Kirby History Museum. Whenever I use a compilation disc, I'm always intrigued by some of the extras and bonus features that are included, so that's where I went first. The features show off the Kirby timeline up until the game's release in 2012, with interesting little tidbits about each year. Some video game related, some not, but it really helps put in perspective just what was happening in the world at the time of each game. They managed to make this small section really fun by having nice music, genuinely interesting facts, and a small amount of interactivity. Nintendo and HAL Laboratory giving this section actual care really shows that this wasn't an afterthought to them, and it's something that I really appreciate. You can also click into any of the games where you're given 2 options, as you can see a 3D model of the game's case, or you can see a trailer for each game, which is a really nice feature as it helps people learn about some of the older games that might have passed them by. Except if you go into the Kirby's Dream Collection here in the museum, you're treated to an in-studio music video, which is absolutely fantastic. Honestly, hearing the music played in this fashion was a real treat, and it just makes me realize just how good and catchy the music in Kirby really is. I would love to play some for you, but it's copyrighted music and I'm not taking any chances with Nintendo. But if you're a big fan of Kirby music, I suggest seeking the video out. And while I personally really enjoy things of this nature in compilations, the real reason for this is the games. There are 6 games included, and in release order they are Kirby's Dream Land, Kirby's Adventure, Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby Superstar, Kirby's Dream Land 3, and Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. So, let's give each one a quick test and see how they look. Here we can see Kirby's Dream Land playing, and this is the original Kirby game from the Game Boy. The game looks and feels really good. The first game actually doesn't have Kirby's copy ability yet, but that doesn't stop it from being a really fun game. It has good platforming and level design along with good music. While not an issue with the original game, I did find that the borders along the outside was rather large and it made the game feel like it was taking up an extremely small portion of the TV. It just made it feel a little out of place, but it worked extremely well for what it was. Next, for the original Nintendo, is Kirby's Adventure. This is where Kirby's copy ability first originated, and it really helped the game stand out. It gave the player a variety of abilities to use, which makes the boss battles feel totally different, as you need to approach them in a variety of different ways depending on the ability you're using. I originally beat this game on the NES Mini a while back, and it was really good time revisiting it, but I do feel like there was a lot of slowdown when playing. I'm sure they didn't do much to clean up any of the games, but it would have been nice. I do appreciate that the game fills in the screen a lot more compared to the Game Boy game though. Next is Kirby's Dream Land 2, and we're back to the smaller screen with bigger borders. I suppose this was purposely done, as I'm sure they thought that blowing up the Game Boy screen too much ruined the quality or something, which I can understand if that's the case, but from an outside perspective, I just found that it was noticeably small. The game plays really well though, and having the copy ability really helps make this a great Game Boy game. It's one that I actually haven't beaten, as I didn't own a lot of Kirby games growing up, so maybe I should return to this Dreamland. Moving on to the Super Nintendo, we have Kirby Superstar. This game looks great. It looks so colorful and it plays so smooth. I put a little bit of time into this on both the Super Nintendo Mini console as well as the Super Nintendo aspect of the Switch Online service, and every time I turn it on, I have a really good time. I feel like this might be one of the lesser played Kirby games on the compilation, as I just feel like not having the Dreamland name made a lot of people think it was a crazy spin-off, and if that's actually the case, then more people should definitely try it and play it wherever they can. The colors and animations are great improvements from the games that came before it, and it plays incredibly smooth. It's just a good time all around. Sticking with the Super Nintendo, it's the one Kirby game on the disc that I don't think I've ever played before. Kirby's Dream Land 3 has a totally different art style from the other Super Nintendo game, with less bright and vibrant colors and a more pastel color palette, which I don't mind, but I think I prefer the visual style of Kirby Superstar. The game does play great though, which is a key factor, but I think I'll wait until I beat Dreamland 2 before fully going through this game. And finally, the Kirby game I played the most growing up, we have Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. I think this game is great. I played it a ton growing up, trying to get all the different ability combinations and finding the coolest looking ones. I think the game looks great. It's clean and crisp with bright colors, it plays great, and it has awesome character animations for each ability. I do remember as a kid being frustrated that it wasn't a full 3D game, as I was a big fan of Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, but looking back now, I don't really mind the level structure. I also think the game aged pretty well, and it's a really fun game to go back to. Now, the disc doesn't only include the 6 classic games, as there's also new challenge levels included, and they're pretty good. They look great, they play great, and they actually do have a bit of difficulty to them. Beating the levels can be as simple as getting to the end, but trying to get a perfect score can be rather challenging. Killing every enemy, collecting every coin, and beating it within a time limit can definitely give you a bit of a struggle, and it helps give the new levels a bit of replayability as you want to achieve the best score possible. After checking out every aspect, there's a few highs and lows I noticed with the structure of the compilation. First up, the lows. There's no proper return to title screen button. While it is simple enough to use the home button on the Wiimote and hit reset, I think having it in a pause menu somewhere in each game would make it a little bit more streamlined. There is also a button combination you can hold to return to the title screen of the current game you're playing, but not to the compilation title screen. Second, I'm not really a fan of how visually small the Game Boy games feel in comparison to the other games. The borders really feel like they take up the majority of the screen space for those scenarios. Third, there's a lack of customization within the compilation. I think it's a shame there isn't multiple borders to choose from. I think that it would be a nice feature along with choosing different aspect ratios if you want to play full screen, but it's not an option anywhere it seems. There is, however, a button combination you can hold that can completely remove the borders entirely if you prefer. However, the borders having an on-off option isn't as satisfying as a variety of borders to choose from, but I do appreciate the option to turn them off if I desire. But while some of those things are lows, the compilation definitely has some highs, starting with the multiple controller options. You can play the games using the Wiimote sideways, the classic controller plugged into the Wiimote, or a GameCube controller, and honestly, all of them feel great. I think having that level of compatibility is always a positive thing as it allows the players to enjoy the games however they desire. I think the museum aspect is a great feature, and I personally love seeing things like the music video. The collection also comes with a soundtrack disc, and while it can't be played on a Nintendo console as they can't play audio discs, I did listen to it and it sounds fantastic. Fun fact, I actually played it on my PS2 and I just think that's hilarious. I also think it's a good thing that the game saves your progress. So if you play Dreamland 2, then reset from the Wii menu, then go to Kirby 64 for an hour, and then return to Dreamland 2, it'll save your progress. It'll also save your progress if you turn off the system, but it won't keep your save data if you move the disc to an entirely different console. I found this out because while I did do 95% of my playing using the Wii U backwards compatibility, I did try it out on an original Wii to test out the GameCube controller support, and it's a good thing I did because playing this through composite cables on a flat screen made the game incredibly squished. It's difficult for me to show this because my composite to HDMI converter automatically stretches the video to full screen and there's nothing I can do about it, but through editing, this is essentially how the game looked on my TV when just playing through composite without the converter. I don't have a CRT TV to test out how it would look through that, but playing this through the Wii on a modern flat screen with composite inputs really ruins the experience. Honestly, I never would have even noticed if it wasn't for my curiosity as to how the GameCube controller feels, and it led me to notice this crazy difference. Maybe it'll look perfect on a CRT, but I can't test that, so I definitely recommend using the Wii U backwards compatibility for the best quality possible. As a whole, I think the compilation is fantastic. While it's a shame that there's no spin-off type games included like Kirby's Pinball Land, and some of the borders aren't how I want them to be, I think the games included look great, play great, and offer a ton of fun to the player. The added features like the challenge levels, museum, soundtrack, and celebration booklet are great additions to go along with the collection of games. Personally, I was shocked to see it at my local thrift store, and I'm super glad I decided to pick it up. And if you haven't checked out the short unboxing with a closer look at the celebration booklet, then be sure to click right here.